Chapter 5. Correct your personal identifiers. If you've ever been pulled over by the traffic police, you know the first thing they ask for is your driver's license and automobile registration. They don't start the conversation by asking why you were driving in the carpool lane without a passenger or by telling you that you were driving too fast. Identity first, then talk about what happened. The same principle applies with your credit report. Your personal identifiers are the first thing you want to review and make corrections to. This is key to setting up success for the rest of your credit repair, and some pros spend a good 6 to 8 weeks on their client's ID before sending any dispute letters. Your personal identifiers are your name, date of birth, social security number, address, and phone number. For a deep dive, we need to understand how your personal information gets on your credit report in the first place. The credit bureaus are data collectors. They collect information that has been sent to them. For example, the car finance company sends them information about your car loan payments. The finance company is called the furnisher of information, meaning the giver of information. If the person setting up your car loan input a typo in your name, then you will have a second spelling of your name on your credit report. Another furnisher of information is your credit card company. If you applied for your credit card online in a hurry, you might have typed your name as Will when it is legally William. In that case, you will have both Will and William listed as names on your credit report. Maybe there is another William in the United States with the same last name as yours. It is very possible for you to see accounts belonging to the other William on your credit report. This is called merged or mixed credit. This is a common error that can lead to big problems. You could get denied for credit right when you need it most. You could get passed up for a great job opportunity if someone else's derogatory information is attached to your name. If you sometimes invert or transpose letters and numbers, double-check your applications before submitting. Avoid using a nickname on a legal document. How your name should look on your credit report. You want your legal name on your credit report. Your legal name does not contradict your social security card or your driver's license or state-issued ID card. Your legal name is also the name you use on your financial documents, such as your tax returns, rental agreement, your credit cards, etc. If your legal name is Rosalinda, then don't write Rosie on any legal documents, even if that is what everyone calls you. The most common legal name is first, middle initial, last name. You're not required to spell out your full middle name on legal documents or your credit report. Your birth certificate and driver's license include your middle name. You can choose to include only a middle initial on all your credit accounts. That is normal and fine. If your name is William Xavier Green, you can use William the 10th Green as your legal name. You don't want to see William, Will, Willie, Willie, Bill, Billy on your credit report. Neither do you want to see your last name spelled as Green if Green is correct. If you got married and had credit in your maiden name, then it is normal for your credit report to show both maiden and married last names on your report, the same if you were divorced and changed your last name. If you have a hyphenated last name, this can cause confusion and errors, so expect to make corrections to your name. If your name is spelled in a creative or unusual way, then expect to make corrections to your name. Don't overlook this, because those corrections are important. If your name includes a suffix of senior, junior, 3, or other, then that must be included in the legal name on your credit report, and any name without it should be removed from your report. Surnames create a huge opportunity for merged credit, false credit, errors, and identity issues, so get that corrected first. Then going forward, remember to pay attention that your applications and documents include your proper suffix. If you are middle-aged and have a long credit history of excellence under a nickname, such as Rob rather than Robert, then you want to retain that positive credit. In this case, you will end up with 2 different first names on your report. On the other hand, if there was one account under the name Rob and that account is negative, such as a charge-off or collection, then you will get Rob removed from your report now so that the name won't tie you to the bad account. You get the point. Keep the good and remove the false and the bad. Have as few forms of your name on your credit report as common sense dictates, keeping in mind the principle the fewer, the better, but also realizing there are times when it makes sense to have more than one form of your name on your credit report. Some errors turn out to be a blessing in disguise. If you have a paid-off collection that was taken out in a misspelled name or a non-legal nickname, then the pros would demand deletion after they removed the misspelled name off your credit report. It's easier for them to challenge when there is nothing tying that derogatory account to the real you. When you send your letter to the credit bureaus, include a copy of identification, driver's license or state-issued ID, and 1 to 4 more documents that match. You could use the first page of a rent agreement, utility statement, cell phone bill, W-2, pay stub, bank statement, or voter registration card that shows your correct name as you want it to appear. Double-check to see that your name and address match exactly. One of the nation's top and most successful credit repair business owners, Neil Yeagley, looked at his records to see whether or not sending several documents in his support was better than sending only one picture ID. Here's what he found, which applies to all types of disputes: not only getting a name and address corrected if you send in 2 forms of ID, there is a 76% acceptance rate. But if you send 3 IDs, the acceptance increases to 86%. With 4 IDs, 92%. With 5 IDs, 98% success rate. Use this tip for all your letters to the credit bureaus, not the individual creditors. For your own curiosity and self-education, do a Google search for your first and last name. Do you see any photos of people who look nothing like you? Now do one more search, this time on LinkedIn. See how many professionals there are with your first and last name. For most people, the number is surprisingly high, and this underscores the necessity to remove nicknames, misspellings, and other errors from your credit report profile. Christina Forhorn was preparing to pick up her daughter from school when police officers arrested her for robbery, buttoned her up in a black and white striped jailbird suit, and kept her locked up for 5 horrid days and nights. They had the wrong person, which she explained over and over again. The real thief was Kristen Forhorn. 1. Dakota Ward was only 19 years old when police arrested him for failing to appear in court for a crime he knew nothing about. It was a battery charge committed by Dakota Ward. The no-show wasn't entirely Dakota's fault either. The notice had been sent to the wrong address, because the name Dakota had been mistyped into the police database. The spelling errors caused legal issues for both men. Dakota's friends were laughing when they saw his name under a mugshot of the blonde, blue-eyed Dakota. Dakota is not feeling the humor about having his name in cyberspace tied to a violent crime he didn't commit. 2. The exact spelling of your name matters. Don't complicate your profile by randomly using a nickname or sloppily leaving off a suffix when you apply for credit or open a bank account. Always verify and double-check the spelling of your name on an application. Your date of birth and social security number on your report. June Smith got a funny feeling when she received a medical bill for a pregnancy test. Why? June Smith was 72 years old. Further investigation showed tens of thousands of dollars in medical services were charged to her Medicare account, all a big fraud tied to her social security number. 3. An incorrect social security number or birth date must be corrected. Any inaccuracy can potentially cause financial ramifications. Your address on your credit report. A mortgage broker can tell you many people have incorrect addresses attached to their names, and many times those addresses don't appear on their credit report from the big 3 credit bureaus. It was always a little shocking when the underwriter reviewed a client's loan applications and then, out of the blue, asked for an explanation for a random address. The client wondered where the underwriter got that. It wasn't even on their credit report. This demonstrates how outside sources, such as LexisNexis, are used to verify and check information. Most of the time, the address in question doesn't belong to the client. Here are 5 examples of false addresses that pop up from data collectors. 1. The childhood home owned by your parents. 2. A home owned by someone else where you once shared a room. 3. A business office or studio you once rented. For foot, an ex-spouse home. 5 foot, a random address that mysteriously attached itself to you due to a mistake or someone else's information getting merged with yours. One person had his bank's address listed on his credit report as his home address. Another person moved from Texas, up north, and the relocation company's address was on his credit report as his home. Crazy mistakes. Because you don't know what bogus addresses might be attached to your name, list your correct addresses. Include the address where you currently live and where you once had an account with good credit and where you once owned a house with a paid-on-time mortgage. In your letter to correct your addresses, do not list the addresses you want removed, you list only those you acknowledge as correct and true and wish to remain on your report. If you are young or new to the US, you might have only one address, and that is okay. All the addresses stated should be addresses where you had good, paid as agreed, credit established. Do not remove any good credit. You want all your good credit to stay on your report forever, even if it is closed and past the 7-year mark. If you rented a house for a couple years when you made mistakes or went through a hard time and have a bunch of old, paid-off bad credit associated with that address, then you don't want that address attached to you any longer. Leave it out of your letter. Please notice that you are not directly saying you never lived at 101 Old Street. Don't make a false statement to the credit furnishers or credit reporting agencies. Don't write "I never lived there" if you did. Simply list the addresses you want on your record and leave it at that. The law does not require you to name every address you lived at. You might have roomed with a friend and never took any credit out at a certain address. There is no reason to put that on your list. Don't include your childhood home on your list, that is your parents' or guardian's address, not yours. Your phone number on your credit report. Your telephone number is added to your credit report when a creditor reports it. If there is a mistyped number or if someone accidentally types a serial number in the phone number space, you've got an error on your report. Sometimes, an employer's number attaches to a person's report as their personal number. Get all phone numbers that are not your current number removed. You can use one letter to remove your false addresses and phone numbers. Write one letter to correct all your personal identifiers at once. After mailing this letter to the Big Three, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, you are going to mail the same letter to the other, smaller, lesser-known and yet equally important credit sources, because you now know that LexisNexis and SageStream can function as Gorilla Glue. Consumer Reports conducted a survey using 6,000 volunteers. They ordered their free annual credit report, then checked for errors. In an article dated June 11, 2021, they reported that 29% of the volunteers found errors in their personal identifiers. Feel free to quote that statistic in your letter. Here is a sample letter to credit bureaus to correct personal identifiers. Dear Credit Bureau, according to a study by Consumers Report, 29% of the participants had errors relating to their personal information. Well, I have found errors on my credit report, as well. My legal name is first, middle initial, last name. My date of birth is month, day, year. Fill in the blank. My social security number is. Fill in the blank. My correct addresses are the following, fill in the blank. I have included a copy of my ID types as verification. I demand deletion of all other personal information. The accuracy of my credit report is of utmost importance to me. Thank you, and I look forward to a speedy response. Signature.